Today started fairly well. I got up and dressed. I wore a button-up and a tie for a change, since we were going to Miyajima in Hiroshima. I felt I would pay my respects and wear something that was a bit nicer than jeans and a t-shirt. I should have known the day was going to throw me a curveball, when not only had I woken up at 4 a.m., but when I got to the station well ahead of schedule, I had forgotten Mayuko's gifts and rushed back to get them and make it back to catch the Shinkansen to Shin Osaka, where Haruna would join us. So I got on the wrong train. I got on the Kodama instead of the Hikari. As Adrian likes to say, it sucks to suck. So I'm waiting for the 9:40 train to Kyoto, and I'll get in at 10 or something, or 7. I don't know. It's like an 8 o'clock train to 10 o'clock or something. So yeah, my adventures in Japan are pretty awesome thus far. I found a way to screw it up already. But I'm having a good time regardless. I'm just tired and hungry and hangry. We got caffeinated at the station, Mayuko, Ko, and I, and headed for the train. Once on, it was about an hour or so to meet with Haruna. From there, we headed west to Miyajima Island. The island is home to Miyajima Shrine. The torii gates and the water are a symbol of the energy that resides there. We were lucky that not only was the weather beautiful, but we got to witness a traditional Japanese wedding take place at the shrine. Also, they have shika, or deer, roaming the island. I got to pet a couple of them, which was really awesome, and we prayed at the shrine. We're going to a Sensuji Shinto shrine at Asakusa, which also has a Buddhist temple. I visited that place 2 years ago, or about 2 years ago. And at the Shinto shrine was probably one of the most important things that happened on the first trip. And so going back is really important to me. And the fact that now and Haruna and Ko are going to go with me. We hiked the trail to the top where a larger temple stood but was under renovation. We did sit on the cliffs for a bit and enjoyed the view of the ocean and the city. We then walked through the shopping arcade and ate sweets, made jokes, and enjoyed the weather. We then headed back to the station and caught the train to Hiroshima. Once there, we took a city tram to the Peace Park, located in the center of the city. The Dome Monument was registered as an UNESCO World Heritage Site many years ago, and has gone through stringent upkeep to make sure that it remains strong, as the only building that was left standing after the bombing on August 6, 1945. We saw it riding up on the city tram, to which I simply exclaimed, "Wow!" But when face to face with it, and in close proximity, I could not bring myself to gaze up toward the dome. Partially because the sun was blinding on such a clear, lovely day, and partially because I wasn't sure how I would react if I laid my eyes upon it. Once around and out of the sunlight, I finally worked up the nerve to gaze skyward, and that was when tears began to fall. There was a powerful energy surrounding this place, and it moved me in a way that I was not quite ready or prepared for, though I'm not sure anyone can be. To see photos of it, to read about it, to hear stories, doesn't truly express what seeing it with your own eyes does. To sit down with Mayuko, Ko, and Haruna on a bench together and just be perfectly still and quiet was one of the most rewarding things to have happen to me. To have it happen in a place where such senseless violence was perpetrated was a testament to how far we have come as cultures and nations. For Mayuko to ask me what I thought, how I felt, if I would be okay, these gestures of kindness moved me even further. She was curious how I felt as a person, as her friend, as family, not as an American, not as someone with white guilt, of which I must say I was struck by very heavily, but as a comrade in arms for change, peace, and understanding. It was a very deeply moving moment. We made our way very sullen through the park to the Children's Memorial in honor of Sadako Sasaki. She was a young girl who died from leukemia caused by the radiation after the bomb was dropped. Her fellow students made paper cranes to honor her memory and to plead to the world for peace after losing their friend and schoolmate. The monument was erected with various glass cases surrounding it filled with paper cranes from over 3,200 schools. From there, we headed to a shrine where we prayed for the students who were drafted into fighting, and then to the Peace Park Monument for the deceased. This represents all 140,000 lives lost on that fateful day, and acts as a small shrine as well. All 4 of us prayed, and we went along to the museum. Starting at the dome, I could not lift my head. I felt shame, I felt rage, I felt disgust, both for me and for various other things.
It was the most Japanese, yet most American I have ever felt. I felt as if eyes were upon me, scrutinizing my every movement, action, and mannerism. Was I smiling when I shouldn't be? Did I look guilty? Was I hurt and pained enough? Was I or wasn't I crying? All these thoughts raced through my head and boiled over once inside the museum exhibit. The museum itself only costs about 50 cents to enter. Once upstairs and inside, you were confronted with photos of the mushroom cloud taken from various places around Japan. Once through, they have set up makeshift rubble and wall backdrops that look like blasted landscape. Once you have traversed this, you enter into the exhibit proper, filled with glass cases of varying sizes and heights. Inside are relics from that day. Children's clothes preserved, items owned by individuals who died and who were dying from radiation poisoning, radiation burns, or various other injuries and ailments, or even preserved bits of skin and hair from victims. Life-size mannequins made up to look like victims of the fallout and blast are there melting, disfigured, and a stark reminder of the effects this event had. I made it past the first block of relics when I was confronted with a set of steps that had been preserved with someone's shadow present, similar to the photos that show the same thing in books. When I turned, there were large photos of people with burns, limbs missing, in clear agony from what had just happened. It was here that I could no longer bear the pain and the immense amount of energy emanating from the items enclosed in the exhibit, or from the people that surrounded me. I looked frantically for an exit, all the while trying to keep as calm as possible, and when I realized the only way to get respite was to leave, I beelined it for the exit. It was on that way out that I thought every eye was upon me. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but under stress our brains do and think crazy things. As soon as I rounded a corner where no one was, I couldn't help but collapse to the ground and proceed to cry every tear my eyes could muster. Partially through the crying, I felt a hand on my shoulder. Haruna had noticed and followed me out of the exhibit, and was trying to console me. She crouched next to me and rested her hand and head on my shoulder. I clutched at her hand and I cried harder. If anyone should be upset with me, it was her. Japanese, victims that my country perpetrated such viciousness against. But here she was, not Japanese, and I wasn't American anymore. We were two people, crying, hurt, and trying to figure out how to move on from a painful past that somehow has everything to do with this, and yet nothing at all. She moved me from my place on the floor to seating outside where I continued to expel everything I felt, and she just sat and held my hand until I could muster words, even when they were pointed and choked. Did she hate the fact I couldn't make it the whole time, see every item, bear witness to every atrocity? No, because I can't either. You feel the same pain I feel. It's going to be okay. That is enough for either of us, Haruna said. Ko and Mayuko followed later and sat with us on the same bench. Again, here we were, sullen, silent, but together and connected without saying a word or doing anything. Once we gathered ourselves enough to continue, we made our exit, heads hung, hearts heavy. Every ounce of energy had been drained at this point. And this is where you find me, on a 4-hour ride back to Kyoto, emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausted, but yet somehow optimistic, hopeful, and full of vigor. Dear Andrew, I was very glad to know how you feel and what you think at Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park and in the museum. Because when you talked to me a little at Hiroshima Station, I couldn't understand what you say perfectly. I just felt you were trying to say something important, though. I had lots of things to tell you, but I couldn't say it well in English, so I decided to write a letter. It's easy to text it and send you as a message, but I believe my handwriting helps to convey my feeling to you well. I felt heartrending and was moved when I read your status on Facebook. Tell the truth, I was worried about you before we went inside the exhibition. I thought you might not be able to bear to see all exhibits, because I know you're a very sensitive person just like me. I know I can't see all either. It's too hard and painful for me. So I could notice you started walking to the exit. I also felt I couldn't bear anymore. That's why I said it was enough for us. Some feel very sensitive, but some doesn't. All human beings keep the balance like that, you know. We might feel more sensitive than ordinary people. I believe that the most important thing is not quantity, but how we feel. And when I caught up with you just around the corner, I thought the only thing I can do, and I want to do, is just to stay next to you with my heart filled with love. I couldn't find the words at that time, and I haven't found the words still now. But I think that might be enough for us. We don't need the words, right? I'm sure we could connect by the love of each other. That was really a worthy moment in my life. When I sat on the bench with you in front of the atomic dome, I felt like a miracle to be here with you. You are American and I'm Japanese, but we love and care for each other as a person. That's awesome, isn't it? Anyway, I really appreciate you to go there and share the time with me. You are my precious friend. I also appreciate the Kakahashi Project. March 15th, 2016 is important for you and us, so I chose Totoro's key charm. The date is printed on it, and as a small gift to express my gratitude. I hope it reminds you of that day and us. I don't want you to go back to the U.S. Please find a job and come back here. I will wait for you. Thank you so much. Lots of love. From Haruna. March 17th, 2016.